All right, we're on air. It is Thursday, February 22nd. This meeting is a check-in on active development tasks for Backdrop CMS, plus other related information. I don't think we had this meeting last week. There were several technical failures on the side of those who were trying to run the meetings, and I think like the internet went out for Tom, something terrible it sounded like. So sorry we didn't have a meeting last week, but we have lots of exciting things to share. Last Tuesday, DDEV, which is the DRUD Local Development Environment, they actually have a hosting solution as well, added built-in support for Backdrop, and they have a blog post that went out, I think, on Wednesday last week announcing it, which is pretty exciting. So anyone who's using DDEV for local development can now use it pretty easily for Backdrop, which is great. Fastly also offered to help support Backdrop in the same way that they're supporting Drupal by providing a content delivery network for all of our properties. So that would be backdropcms.org, but also the forum site, the API site, and our localized server. So we've started working with them on how to get that set up, and when that's going, we'll get some co-branded blog posts out, one on our site mentioning that we're sponsored by Fastly, and then Fastly was the one mentioning that they're sponsoring us as part of their open source initiative, which I think is really great. Hopefully, those two things will also help us reach new markets of people who might not have been considering Backdrop before. If they're DDEV users or Fastly users, now that's Backdrop's an option for them. That hopefully will help us increase our reach. So last week, Nate and I went to Florida Drupal Camp. We did training on Friday. We did a session on Sunday, and one of the people from our training on Friday has since ported the real name module and submitted an application into the Backdrop Contrib group requesting access to provide the module. So I think that's fantastic. Somebody was like, I wonder if I can make this module work on my site, and they were able to do so, and now they want to contribute it back. So thank you very much, Mark, for your work on real name, and welcome to the Backdrop community. On our own websites, backdropcms.org, we have a couple of things going on. We have our homepage redesign has one last bit, which is creating the top level page for add-ons, modules, and themes. I guess there's two things left. And then also building out the new try Backdrop on page, which we're working on. So those two things should be done shortly, and then the homepage redesign doesn't need to be talked about anymore. Oh, Nate also pointed out there are a couple of little bugs with the CSS on there, which I will try and clean up this afternoon. Our forum site is going pretty well. There's been a whole bunch of people over there asking good questions, which is great. That site should be getting updated to the latest Backdrop core today, and after that point, all of our images and comments will start to work again. So I know that's been an issue over there, people posting screenshots and having them be cleaned up by garbage collection. That issue's been fixed in core and will be pushed to the forum site later today. And then people had also asked for a search box so that you could find other people talking about your issues, and that's also going to be deployed, but it needs a little CSS love on the search results page, so that's what the holdup is on that. API site is going to get a copy of the same theme that's running on backdropcms.org in the forum. Not sure ETA on that, but the API site does deserve a little love. It's been a while since anyone's worked on it. It's just been doing what it does, which is great. But it would be great to get it updated to our brand as well. So that's it from our other websites. Nate, do you want to talk about Backdrop itself?
Yeah. Boy, since it's been 2 weeks since we had a meeting, we have a lot to report on. So 1.9.1 was released last week. Yay! That was great. It introduced full parity with Drupal 755 through 756. But that's not all. 1.9.2 was released this week. Yay! So we had two releases in 2 weeks. Last week was just a standard bug fix release, but then yesterday, Drupal had a security release in 7.57. And so, as always, we released a corresponding release of Backdrop that is 1.9.2. That includes those same 4 security fixes that are in 7.57. Apparently 7.57 was security releases or security fixes exclusively. So that means that we don't need a cross-porting issue to port things from 7.57 into Backdrop, because 7.57 is already fully cross-ported with just those security fixes. 1.9.2 also included a couple of small fixes that will help out Pantheon users. Sometimes Nginx, if that's your web server, it might be complaining about your htaccess files, but htaccess files don't do anything on Nginx, so there's no point in having it notify you about about htaccess files missing if they don't do anything. A couple of other minor issues that were also addressed in there, but for the most part, 1.9.2 is just the security fixes, considering it only been a week since 1.9.1 came out. 1.9.3 is the next bug fix release. There are a number of issues that have been continuously bumped from 1.9.1 to 1.9.2 to 1.9.3 now. There's only a couple of these that are marked as needs review, but almost all of them have a pull request that are in needs work status. And I'm not going to go over all of them individually, but check out the GitHub issue tracker for 1.9.3 on GitHub. All of those issues have had progress, but need a little bit of work in order to push them forward and get them committed for the next version. Yeah, and I guess specifically, this is just added into the agenda. There's 2904, which is the problem with database credentials. Previously, they didn't have to be URL encoded, and now they do need to be URL encoded if you're using the short one-line database credentials. We made a change in 1.9 that allowed you to use special characters, all special characters in your database passwords, but it inadvertently broke the % symbol. So all other special characters are now fine, but the % symbol now has a problem. So we have an issue there to basically temporarily make it so that the old format of passwords would work for your database credentials. And we want to tell the people that they need to update their settings.php file to match the new URL encoded format. So, hopefully the number of sites that are affected by that is small, but the longer we wait on that, kind of the less relevant it becomes, because as users upgrade to 1.9, they're all going to run into that problem. So sooner the better for trying to get that fix in place to kind of transition people to the new password format. All right, 1.10. 1.10 is the next minor release of Backdrop. That will be coming out May 15th, 2018. And in particular, this release is focusing on translation improvements. Two issues in particular, issue 225 is making menu items translatable. This one is really close. It actually had been marked RTBC. Functionally, it's complete. It just needs some terminology updates to get it all acceptable. So that's really exciting. Menu items have always been an area of trouble for Drupal as far as translating goes, and this will resolve that problem and get us one step closer to being fully internationalizable out of the box. Config translation is issue 704. And config translation, we have a pretty solid battle plan for that is backwards compatible and doesn't actually really introduce any new, it doesn't really introduce new functionality. It introduces new APIs to make it so that translation is more consistent throughout all of Backdrop. We have a solid plan there, but implementation is only in the proof of concept phase still in issue 704. This is something that we can start implementation on and work to transition our APIs over the course of multiple releases. But it would really be great if the initial release had some really solid implementations that would set the standard for all of Contrib to follow. Let's see, another topic, improvements to modules, themes, and layouts, the process of downloading, installing, finding, and enabling them. Let's see, we've got issue 1517, which would enable the capability to have multiple screenshots for a project, so that when you're searching for projects through backdropcms.org or through the project installer, that you'd be able to see multiple screenshots of a theme or some screenshot at all of a module, which right now there's no images at all for anything other than themes. Themes only have one. So there's a plan to provide that functionality, but there is not yet a pull request, I don't think, to make progress on the implementation. A really old issue, issue number 37, is adding the ability to have tags on modules to improve the way that the search results work when you're doing a module search, or when you're enabling a module, having modules that are all of the same tag show up. And there is an initial pull request that simply adds the capability to the .info files, and that is in a needs review state. And lastly, also kind of related to that previous issue, making it so that the instant filter searches at the top of the main modules page in Backdrop search not just on the project name, but also on the grouping name, and that is issue 2973. That only states the problem at this point. There's no code to back it up yet. There are also a bucket of other issues for 1.10, including some file management and media related issues. I know Graham72 has been working really hard on making it so that you can upload a file to the WYSIWYG editor in the same way that you can upload an image. It just inserts a link instead. For example, there's a lot of other media related issues as well that have had really solid starts that we could push forward further in the 1.10 release. That's it for the Backdrop project update. We've got a section here for Backdrop for Good. Jeff, do you have any updates this week for that project?
I saw some movement in the queue. So I know Laren's been doing some work there, so it's on my plate to go through that queue and push it forward again.
Cool. And then the next item on here, I think, is also in the Jeff category, which is general maintenance of the Backdrop Docker image. Do you want to provide any detail there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have good sense of how much that's used, but my motivation has slipped because the primary thing that I knew that it was used for was Calabox, and we don't work on Calabox anymore. We only work on Lando, and it doesn't use that Docker image. So my motivation to maintain it is low, and I'm not sure how many people use it. So if anybody else knows any of those things and is interested in maintaining it, take it.
Yeah, great. And that project is managed in the Backdrop Ops GitHub group. And if you're interested in maintaining it, just send an email to info@backdropcms.org, and we'll make it so you can get access to that repository on GitHub. Is there a way to see where this image is actually being used? Like, is it hosted on, what are some of those websites that host Docker images?
It's on Docker Hub.
Yeah.
I think it says like
GitHub is using that image too, so we might be able to get someone there to maintain it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that would suddenly make it important again. Okay, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. I had noticed that there's been a little bit of delay on there, and that we maintain so many upstreams. I can totally understand the need to distribute that. We now have an upstream or a starting template for both Pantheon and Platform SH, and the Docker image and the original package file. Like there's a lot of different places that that right now we're kind of managing those things all centrally. And it would really be great if we could distribute those things in kind of a more community-driven fashion and have people that use.
Is any of this possible to automate?
What's that?
Is any of it possible to automate keeping these things updated?
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
It's not a tremendous amount of effort, but I don't know if we'd want to fully automate it. Like updating the Pantheon image is a matter of just pulling and then pushing, like one kit pull, one kit push. I think that's pretty much the same for the platform SH. And the Docker image, I think, is actually even simpler than that. It's just bumping version numbers in a text file. So none of these things are tremendously difficult. I guess the Docker image actually would be a lot easier to automate just because the risk is a lot lower there than it is with like the Pantheon upstream. I feel like that needs to be explicit. But a great question. It probably could be automated.
There's also a library that handles one-click installs that I think we got set up on a year ago. But I noticed that sometimes when we send into shared hosting, there's the ability to do one-click install with Backdrop, but it's like Backdrop 1.4. So we should figure out how to maintain that as well as part of our release cycle. So I'll try and figure out what the name of it is. I don't know what it is. I know we have an issue somewhere that's like, we should add Backdrop to one-click installs, and it has like a bunch of checkboxes, and I think a lot of them are using the same tool for that. So hopefully we don't only have to maintain one. But I don't know where it is or how to maintain it currently. So I'll try and do some research and figure out how that's working.
Great. Yeah, Jeff said that the Docker Hub image says that it's had more than 1 million pulls, which seems a little bit surprising.
Those folks at DDEV are doing a lot of automated testing.
That's a lot of pulls. That's pretty impressive.
I wanted to ask, if I recall correctly, Backdrop for Good is also used as a use case for the translation thing, multilingual, correct?
Yeah.
Do we have the single sign-on thing going on for Forum and other sites like that? Like, would I have admin access, or do I need to create an account? I'm interested in translating it and just playing around with what we have so far.
So we don't have single sign-on working with anything yet. So depending on which site you wanted to be on, we would have to make you an admin on it. I don't know anything about the Backdrop for Good site specifically. You probably have to talk to Jeff about that.
Jeff, is you the person to be talking to?
Yeah, I think you have an account because you did some Greek translation.
Or I started doing that, yes, but it's been so long. Yeah, anyways.
So you should have an account though. But if you don't, I'm the guy to talk to.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Anything else? I think that wraps up the agenda. The final thing was that Docker image question. And maybe that actually is a better way of spinning it. You don't necessarily need to maintain the Docker image. Nobody likes doing maintenance. But we do need somebody to automate the Backdrop Docker image. And everybody loves automation. So that's a great possibility for someone out there looking to do a little GitHub webhook magic. Could probably make that happen. Okay, unless there's anything else, I think that does it for this call. Any last words? No? Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, once again for joining the Backdrop meeting, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Bye,
thank you. Bye.